Thanks for quitting. Olivia sneered and looked at me. I just silently stared back at her. It's about cutting labor costs. We don't need someone who exploits overtime pay at our company. Jerry seemed pleased too. A week later, I kept getting calls from the company. Hello, I answered. The president spoke. Who exactly are you? I laughed mockingly at his words. I am Nicole Wallace. I'm 57 years old. I've been working at this company for 35 years since graduating from college. Our company is staffed with administrative scriveners, social insurance labor consultants, and tax accountants handling clerical work for our clients. This is especially popular with company presidents who run their businesses alone. These presidents are busy with sales and lack the time for clerical work, so our company takes care of it for them. I belong to the tax department. I got my bookkeeping and tax accountant qualifications during my school days, and that's why I joined this company. Now I'm managing 41 clients, which keeps me quite busy. Even though a part-timer handles the accounting entries, it's still overwhelming. But I can't show any weakness. Our clients are all long-term relationships, and many of them have had their fair share of hardships. Seeing them face adversity, I feel I can't lose either. So here I am in front of my computer again today. Lately, I've been troubled. Jerry and Olivia have been harassing me. Jerry, 6 years younger than me, is the head of the tax department. He used to be just a regular colleague, but his attitude changed drastically 5 months ago when he got promoted. He used to speak politely, but suddenly he started talking down to me. Nicole, what are you doing? You've got some nerve slacking off during work hours. He's always either sarcastic or complaining. I'm looking at documents for tax-saving strategies for our clients. When I talked back, Jerry stayed calm. Just check the manual for that. Don't do anything unnecessary, and if you end up working overtime, don't expect to get paid for it, he said, glaring at me. Unable to respond, I heard Olivia, Jerry's assistant, say, Nicole, you should work more efficiently. At this rate, you'll never finish. That's why you're still a regular employee. Olivia laughed mockingly. I was the first to be offered the promotion to department head, but I declined. Becoming the head meant more time for management and less for client interaction. It was an internal offer, so Jerry and Olivia didn't know about it. I'll make sure to complete my regular duties as well, I managed to say. Still, Jerry and Olivia's harassment continued. You're increasing overtime again. What a waste of overtime, Jerry's angry voice echoed today. Nicole, cut it out. Your constant overtime is dragging down the whole tax department's performance, Olivia sighed. The reason for yesterday's overtime was simple. Jerry had accumulated a month's worth of declaration forms to be filed by the end of the month. After work yesterday, Jerry suddenly said, "Take care of these," and left several client files on my desk. I turned pale when I saw the files. Wait, these all have deadlines this month, right? I asked in confusion, but Jerry was already packing up at his desk. I'm heading out. Take care, he said, and quickly left the office. Good luck, okay? Olivia followed Jerry out, laughing mockingly. Unbelievable. I sighed and opened the client files left on my desk. Some of the files were Olivia's responsibility. I sighed even deeper. I knew why Jerry was harassing me. They wanted me to retire quickly. I have more experience and deeper knowledge in taxation than him. So other members of the tax department come to me with their questions instead of Jerry. There are other reasons why everyone avoids Jerry. He looks greasy and unapproachable. The only female employee who stays near him is Olivia. Jerry likes young women. That's probably why he wants me to retire, so the other female employees will rely on him more. It's such shallow thinking. It gives me chills. There's also the fact that he simply doesn't like me. Olivia was harassing me to curry favor with Jerry. Jerry evaluates the performance of the tax department, so she probably wanted to undermine me to get a good evaluation from him. Anyway, I have to manage these declarations. I have to prepare the tax declarations for my assigned companies, but it looks like I won't finish today's work either. If I try to claim overtime, I'll just get complaints from Jerry and Olivia. So I resigned myself to unpaid overtime. Then, one day, I was suddenly called to the president's office. Our company had just had a change of president. The original president's father had been managing the company since it was founded, and he had recently handed it over to his son. The son had always worked at another company and wasn't fully familiar with ours, but he had to take over because his father had suddenly fallen ill. "Excuse me," I said as I entered the president's office. I noticed Jerry and Olivia there, both with unpleasant smirks on their faces. "Why are Jerry and the others here?" I muttered quietly so no one else could hear. In this tense and strange atmosphere, the president spoke. "Nicole, we'll need you to resign by the end of this month." "Excuse me? What do you mean?" I asked, my mind spinning. "I heard from Jerry and Olivia that you've been overbilling for overtime. Other members of the tax department have only about 16 hours of overtime per month, but Nicole, you're already over 83 hours. Don't you find that odd? Jerry and Olivia have 0 overtime this month. Impressive, right?" The president looked at me sternly. The reason my overtime was so high this month was that I was doing Jerry and Olivia's work. But if I said it was Jerry's instructions, it would seem like my own inability to manage time. So I just stated the facts. I haven't overbilled for overtime. It's because I couldn't finish my work within regular hours. The president sighed deeply. "I'm doubtful, but there's no evidence, so I won't pursue it further. However, we can't continue to employ someone who works that slowly, so I want you to resign." The president's mind seemed made up. Me being told to leave the company I had dedicated my entire 35-year career to. I was tired too. No matter how much more I did beyond my own work, it was never appreciated. Instead, I ended up having to take on Jerry and Olivia's work as well. "Yes, I understand. I'll resign at the end of this month." I realized I had already said that to the president. I glanced at Jerry and Olivia. They were smiling smugly, looking very pleased. After leaving the president's office with them, Olivia looked at me and said, "Thanks for quitting." Olivia sneered at me. I just silently stared back at her. Jerry also looked down on me the same way. "We're cutting labor costs. We don't need someone who exploits overtime pay at our company." Jerry seemed pleased too. While watching the two of them talk so cheerily, I thought about the handover process and started creating the handover documents for all my clients. Of course, I didn't miss saying goodbye to the people I was handing over to. I tried to get an appointment with the president to say goodbye in person. For the presidents I couldn't meet, I sent letters and informed them of my successor. A week after I resigned, I was relaxing at home. I had been busy with the handover until my resignation and had been extremely busy even before that. A little relaxation shouldn't be a problem. As I was thinking this, my mobile phone rang. When I checked the call, it was from the company. What could they want now? I made sure to take care of the social insurance procedures. I didn't answer the phone, but then the company called several more times. In fact, I had also received several calls from Jerry and Olivia's personal mobile phones. Maybe they thought I'd answer if it was from the company. Reluctantly, I decided to answer. "Hello? Nicole, it's a mess right now," the president said as soon as I answered. "Who exactly are you?" I laughed mockingly at his words. "Who am I? Just an unemployed lady. I've resigned from the company and I'm nothing else, right?" Then the president spoke urgently. "Since you left, we've had 55 calls to stop transactions with the company. Please come back immediately." The president said his piece and hung up. He must be really panicked. I guess I have no choice. I got up reluctantly and headed to the company. As soon as I arrived, Jerry and Olivia were waiting. Both of their faces were pale, and they had dark circles under their eyes. "What's wrong with both of you?" I asked, surprised at their drastic change in appearance. Jerry glared at me and said, "Since you left, we've been getting calls one after another to stop transactions. Not just from your clients, but from prospective companies we were planning to introduce. What did you do? Olivia also looked at me with suspicion. I never thought Nicole would do something so underhanded. I'm truly disillusioned. The reason they both looked so haggard was probably due to dealing with the cancellations. I hadn't done anything to the clients, but I had a guess why they were canceling their transactions. Well, the cancellations might be unavoidable this time, I muttered. Jerry yelled, "So you did do something, didn't you? Get to the president's office now." He then took me to the president's office. "President, I brought her," Jerry declared forcefully as he opened the door. Olivia followed in a hurry. "Oh, I've been waiting," the president said, looking me in the eyes. Jerry accused me like I was the culprit. "It appears that Nicole was involved in the cessation of transactions with our clients. We should not only make her resign, but also sue her for damages," Olivia argued vehemently, though her language was careful in front of the president. The president ignored them and asked, "Why did so many companies stop transactions after you left?" I took a deep breath and answered clearly, "Don't you understand? Our clients don't need us to manage their taxes. There are tax accountant firms that do it cheaper. Yet they continued with us because I was here." Jerry snapped at me. "What's with that attitude towards the president? And you think you're worth that much?" Olivia taunted, "There's no way it has to be Nicole." The president looked serious. "Jerry and Olivia work based on the manual, optimizing operations, but I do more than that. I offer tax-saving strategies tailored to our clients' situations. Uniform responses don't always serve the client's best interests. Many clients preferred my approach and stayed because of it." Jerry got angry. "How can we afford to give such detailed attention to each case? It takes too much time." "That's right, it's inefficient," Olivia strongly agreed. The president sighed deeply and said, "Actually, I just got a call from Dad, the former president. Some of the clients who stopped transactions had gone directly to him to negotiate about Nicole." I was surprised to hear this. I hadn't expected the clients to go that far for me. Dad said that the tax department was viable because of Nicole. She not only managed her clients, but also supported her colleagues' clients, and she has knowledge that Jerry can't match. Dad also said that if Nicole hadn't declined, she would have been in a higher position than a department head by now. The president spoke with a pained expression. "No, no way." Olivia looked shocked. She probably couldn't believe I might have been her boss. The president continued, "I'm really sorry for making you resign, but can we cancel your resignation, Nicole? You're needed at our company. My father also strongly said so." I was honestly happy about the president's changed opinion, but I couldn't accept it. Then Jerry interrupted, "President, what do you mean she's better than me? I can't accept this." Jerry was visibly upset. Olivia also protested. "Jerry is a wonderful boss who cares for his subordinates, and yet you choose Nicole over him. That's unacceptable." The president looked sternly at them. "Actually, since Nicole resigned, we've been receiving numerous complaints from the tax department. You two seem to have been pushing your work onto others, haven't you?" "What? Why would you say that?" Jerry's face turned pale. The president started speaking with a look of disgust. "I've heard from the employees. Jerry, you've been pushing the preparation of your clients' declaration forms onto your subordinates, haven't you? Including Olivia's work for many clients." Next to Jerry, who was getting paler, Olivia trembled when her name was mentioned. "There was a leak saying you've been pushing your work onto Nicole until she resigned. Jerry, you were calling her a salary thief. It seems the roles are reversed, aren't they?" The president spoke with a sigh. "No, that's not true." Jerry was visibly flustered, unable to come up with an excuse. Observing Jerry and Olivia turning pale together, the president continued, "Also, there was a leak that you two are in a relationship. You were often seen leaving work together, but Jerry, you're married, aren't you?" The president glared at Jerry and Olivia. I was just mentoring Olivia as her superior. Nothing inappropriate. Jerry struggled to find the words when the president produced several receipts. These are receipts queried by the accounting department. These dining expenses filed by Jerry. Who were they with? Certainly not with clients, right? Jerry was sweating profusely, unable to speak. Olivia's face turned ghostly pale. Jerry and Olivia, you've neglected your duty and inflated expense claims. Plus, you're having an affair in the office despite being married. According to company policy, I'm terminating your employment as of today, the president told them calmly and straightforwardly. Jerry and Olivia tried to resist. Please wait. I'll retract the receipt claims. Just don't fire me. I have a family. Jerry desperately tried to reverse his firing. Olivia did the same. Please, I don't want to be fired. I'll apologize to Nicole and the others for dumping work on them. Olivia was on the verge of tears, realizing the severity of being fired for neglecting work and having an affair with a supervisor. She must have been worried about her reputation. I advised Jerry and Olivia, why don't you just stop resisting? It's undignified. Jerry glared at me. Shut up. What would a single person like you understand? I sighed and said, Jerry, you were the one who got me fired. It's just karma. What goes around comes around. Why don't you take some responsibility and reflect a bit? Damn it, Jerry looked frustrated. Olivia bit her lip. I haven't reported this yet, but there's more to Jerry and Olivia's misconduct. Should I share more details? I asked the president with a smile. Jerry and Olivia's behavior was well known in the tax department. Their stories had reached me whether I liked it or not. No, please don't, Nicole. Stop. Both were frantically trying to stop me. I gave them an ultimatum. Wrongdoings eventually come to light. It would be better for you to face reality before it gets worse. At my words, both of them collapsed to their knees. Ultimately, Jerry and Olivia were fired on the spot. I revealed their misdeeds afterward. These included Jerry faking business trips to go out with Olivia for days and harassing employees they disliked into quitting. They repeatedly reprimanded and pressured employees out of my sight and suddenly assigned work with tight deadlines. The employees who resigned asked me to keep quiet, but now they are happily working at other companies, so I decided it was okay to speak up. The president was furious at my revelation. He expressed his anger about cutting their final salary and also planned to thoroughly investigate past inflated expense claims. Jerry was begging the president, tears in his eyes, please don't cut my salary. What will I tell my family if they find out? Eventually, Jerry and Olivia's affair was exposed to Jerry's wife, and Jerry ended up getting divorced. The two are now facing claims for compensation in the divorce lawsuit. I know this because, for some reason, Jerry contacted me. Please, can you persuade the president to reconsider the firing? Olivia and I are in a real bind now. Apparently, Jerry and Olivia are struggling to find new jobs. The tax industry is somewhat insular. If you commit too many misdeeds, word spreads quickly through the industry's network. That's why no one is willing to hire Jerry and Olivia. They need money for the divorce compensation and living expenses, so now they're working day labor at construction sites. People used to office work suddenly doing hard labor outdoors must be tough. Olivia often calls me crying, Nicole, please help. I just wanted a raise and a better life. I never really liked Jerry, and this situation is unbearable, Olivia would say, crying. However, Jerry and Olivia's predicament is their own doing. Many people, including myself, have been victims of their actions. So I told Olivia, this is all your own fault, Olivia. You can't undo what's been done. It will be hard to return to the same path. You're just going to have to deal with the hardships. No way, Olivia cried out in despair. This was the outcome of Olivia's actions. I hope she continues to regret her actions in the future. As for me, I'm still enjoying a relaxed lifestyle away from work. The president has been begging me to return, but I have declined. After being told to resign once, I don't think I'll go back. Sometimes I help out at a friend's tax office to earn a bit of money. Maybe once things settle down, I'll start my own office like my friend. In my own office, no one can complain about my working style. I can fully dedicate myself to my clients. As a tax accountant, I want to be on equal footing with my clients, not as a teacher, but as part of the service industry. My second life has just begun. I'm looking forward to delving into what I want to do next. Olivia's tears and pleas for help continued to come. "Nicole, please help. I just wanted a better life," she would cry. But her words didn't move me. The memory of the stress and harassment I endured because of her and Jerry was still fresh in my mind. "Olivia, you made your bed, and now you have to lie in it," I would tell her. "You can't expect sympathy when you showed none to others." "But it's so hard," Olivia would sob. "I never imagined it would turn out like this." "Actions have consequences," I replied. "You and Jerry brought this on yourselves. You can't go back and undo it. Now you have to face the results of what you've done." Olivia's cries of despair were the echoes of her own choices. It was a harsh lesson, but one she needed to learn. As for me, I found peace in my new routine. Helping out at my friend's tax office was rewarding. I enjoyed the work without the toxic atmosphere Jerry and Olivia had created. The president's requests for me to return became more frequent. "Please come back, Nicole. We need you," he would say. "I'm sorry, but I can't return," I would reply each time. "I appreciate the offer, but I've moved on." Starting my own office became a clearer goal each day. In my own space, I would set the rules. No more dealing with unfair treatment or office politics. I would focus on providing the best service to my clients, building relationships based on trust and respect. In this new chapter of my life, I could finally breathe. I felt lighter, free from the burdens of the past. My days were filled with purpose, and my nights were peaceful, free from the anxiety that had once plagued me. Looking forward, I saw endless possibilities. I could expand my skills, take on new challenges, and build something of my own. My second life was just beginning, and I was excited about the future. No longer weighed down by the negativity of my old job, I could now fully embrace the opportunities ahead. As I planned my new business, I remembered the support and trust my clients had shown me. They were the reason I continued in this field. Their belief in my abilities was the foundation of my new venture. With them in mind, I knew I would succeed. My journey had been tough, but it had made me stronger. Now I was ready to turn the page and start a new chapter. With renewed energy and a clear vision, I looked forward to what was to come. My past experiences had taught me valuable lessons, and I was eager to apply them in my new role. In the end, Olivia and Jerry's downfall served as a reminder of the importance of integrity and respect in the workplace. Their story was a cautionary tale, one that reinforced my commitment to building a positive and supportive environment in my own office. As I moved forward, I carried with me the knowledge that I could overcome any obstacle. My resilience and determination had brought me this far, and they would continue to guide me in the future. My second life was not just a continuation of the old, but a new beginning, full of promise and potential. I'm looking forward to having a blast on a getaway with my friends, all thanks to your credit card. Suddenly, James called me. Lately, he's been returning home late, sneaking conversations on the phone with Sandra, and acting nervous around our place. It made me wonder if he had been planning something secretive all this time. I had my suspicions that James and Sandra were up to something together. Fortunately, I was ready for whatever they had planned. Maybe I should act shocked about it. "What do you mean by yours?" I asked, needing an explanation. I was already aware that James had plans to leave for a trip today. To be honest, I find it astonishing. If he thinks he can deceive me, I wish he had thought his plan through more carefully. I've been patient with everything up until now. However, today, I can't help but feel the need to seek revenge. I've always had a plan for revenge up my sleeve. It's high time we stand up to James and his sister after all the patience we've shown. I believe that by the end of today, things will start to make sense. I hope they enjoy their trip, not knowing that I have someone on the inside working with me. My name is Kelly Brook, and I'm 36 years old, living in a house with my husband James. I jumped straight into work right after finishing high school. Thanks to some experience and a recommendation from my boss, I've earned several certifications. In my company, these certifications and a solid track record mean a lot. At about 23, I was promoted to a lead position, which was quite an achievement as I was the youngest to ever do so in my company. Even though it's just a leadership role, it's a big deal to me. I always had this quiet goal of climbing up the corporate ladder, aiming to become at least a department head someday. As time went by, the company welcomed some fresh faces, including James. Even though I'm younger than him, I held a higher position at work. My job was to train James along with 3 other newcomers, making it 3 trainees in total. "Hey Kelly, we're about the same age, aren't we? And you're already a supervisor? That's amazing," James remarked, showing his surprise. "Yeah, I might be a year or so younger. I've been working here since I decided to leave high school early. It's given me a lot of experience," I explained. James seemed impressed by my early career focus. He would often praise me during those days. Eventually, James began to show interest in me, and although I was hesitant at first, I found myself falling for him over time. Our relationship followed a familiar path, going out for meals, taking drives together, and eventually, we decided to move in together. Living with James, I started noticing his less meticulous habits. I thought it might be his way of showing trust, being his authentic self with me, so I tried not to let it bother me too much. After some time, James proposed and I accepted. We then sat down to talk about our future together. "I'd love for you to be a stay-at-home wife," James suggested. "I'll work and make money, and you can look after the house. It's the ideal setup. I also want us to start a family soon, buy our own home, and plan our wedding. I'm thinking wedding first, then buying a home, followed by kids. What's your take, Kelly?" "James, your plan sounds lovely," I responded. "The sequence doesn't really matter to me, but we do need to think about our financial situation, especially with our savings. And I'm not planning to quit my job, even if we have kids. We could arrange our work schedules to be more flexible. I'm just worried about how we'll manage financially if we decide to buy a house." "Yeah, I understand that," James admitted, "but it bothers me that you earn more than me. Still, I dream about us having our own place. I was hoping we could buy a house right after we get married." "That might be difficult," I pointed out, hinting at the challenges ahead. "Since I already make more money than you, James, let's focus on managing our wedding and getting a house for now. We can think about having kids later and figure out what to do regarding my job at that point." "All right, let's go with that plan," James agreed. Deep down, I really didn't want to leave my job, but I proposed this idea to keep things balanced. Otherwise, I feared James might keep pushing his expectations on me indefinitely. During our engagement, we threw a party that both our families attended. James's sister, Sandra, was away traveling, so our wedding was the first time I met her. She barged into the bride and groom's prep room without knocking, sized me up with a smirk, and remarked, So this is James's choice? A bit on the simple side compared to his ex's, huh? Oh, I'm Sandra, your new sister-in-law. Just so you know, I'm pretty straightforward with family. I'm Kelly. Nice to meet you, I replied, somewhat taken aback by her bold demeanor. Sandra waved dismissively and left the room, leaving me a bit shocked by her blunt introduction. Yes, this new sister-in-law of mine was certainly a character. Later on, I met Sandra's husband, who seemed like a reasonable person in contrast. Our wedding ceremony was beautiful and went smoothly. James and I eventually purchased the house we both loved, and life seemed to be moving at a busy pace, prompting me to invest even more energy into my work. One day, when I was busy, the doorbell rang. I asked James to answer it. He returned, all smiles and laughter, with Sandra, who had decided to drop by unexpectedly. Kelly, hey, look at James, owning such a big house. That's pretty good for him, right? After all, he's my little brother, Sandra commented, making herself comfortable. I've been working hard. Feel free to make yourself at home. Kelly, do we have any snacks or something? My sister's here, so let's be quick. I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was off with James's behavior. He seemed to puff himself up in his sister's presence, acting as if he was the sole owner of our house. It was clear he probably led her to believe he bought the house on his own. I played a significant role in making the down payment and continue to contribute to the mortgage payments for our house. Despite this, James was adamant about having the title in his name alone, and eventually, I agreed to it. Living together made me think it wouldn't really matter whose name was on the deed. However, the way James bragged about it to his sister rubbed me the wrong way. Still, I chose to keep quiet and not cause a fuss. Here are some snacks. James does put in a lot of effort, you know, I mentioned casually, trying to smooth over the atmosphere. Why does Kelly sound so in charge? She's not the boss or anything, Sandra remarked, a hint of annoyance in her voice. Well, actually, I am James's supervisor at work, I clarified, a bit surprised. Oh, is that so? Did James not tell you? When I joined the company, Kelly was already a manager. Since she started working right after leaving high school, it just happened that way. If it were up to me, I'd have surpassed her quickly, Sandra mused. Wait, you left high school early. You seem so responsible, yet you're less accomplished than me, Sandra asked, a bit mockingly. Is there an issue just because I didn't finish high school? I responded, trying to keep the peace. No, not really. But Kelly, since you're not a high school graduate and I'm your sister-in-law, I can ask you for anything, right? That's the rule, Sandra joked, though her tone suggested she wasn't entirely kidding. Kelly, whatever my sister wants, she gets. If you refuse, I'll have to ask you to leave the house, James added, seemingly backing up his sister's outrageous claim. I was baffled by their conversation. Why would not having a high school diploma and her being my sister-in-law mean she could demand anything from me? And the threat of being kicked out of my own home for not complying. Was this some sort of bizarre joke? I managed a polite smile and quickly retreated to the kitchen, needing a moment to collect my thoughts. From there, I could still hear James and his sister talking, and it sounded like they were serious about what they had said. A little while later, Sandra followed me into the kitchen. Hey, Kelly, I actually need to ask you for a favor. What is it? I asked, already dreading the request. I need to borrow some money, like $5,000, please, she said, as if it were a small favor. How is that a small amount? That's quite a lot. What do you even need it for? I questioned, trying to grasp the situation. Come on, it's just $5,000. You're a supervisor, right? You must have a good salary, Sandra pressed, assuming my financial situation would easily cover her request. The entire conversation felt surreal, leaving me to wonder how we'd gotten to this point. Sandra needed the money to cover the costs of renovations. When I reminded her about boasting of her new condo recently, she brushed it off. Did I? Well, Just give me the money. James said he'd lend it to me and told me to ask you. What? Why would he make such a decision without consulting me first? I was taken aback by James's assumption. Listen, Kelly, you either give me the money, or I'll call your boss right now and tell them you're resigning. Which will it be? Sandra put me in a tight spot. All right, Sandra, I'll lend you the money, but there's a condition, I asserted. We need to draft a promissory note. What? Even though we're family? Sandra seemed surprised. Yes, I want it in writing. So when you come to collect the money, bring a valid ID with a photo, okay? Ew, such a hassle. But fine, if you're giving me the money, I'll come over tomorrow night. Sandra reluctantly agreed. Despite the inconvenience, I knew it was crucial to get Sandra's agreement in writing. True to her word, albeit grumbling, she brought everything required the next day. Through this ordeal, I realized just how much James was under his sister's influence. It was frankly absurd. No matter what I said, it wouldn't have made any difference, it seemed. Later, I discovered Sandra spent the money on designer items, and after the initial loan, she started asking for more money without any shame. I insisted on a promissory note each time, and within a month, she had borrowed around $12,000 from me. Just when the situation seemed unbearable, I received an unexpected call from my boss. They wanted to promote me from a supervisor to a department manager. I was ecstatic. This was a step closer to my dream of becoming the head manager. Eager to share the great news, I rushed home to James, who had taken the day off. I'm home. James, guess what? I announced my arrival. Welcome back, Kelly. You seem thrilled. What's up? James greeted me. Today, my boss called me in, and guess what? He offered me the position of department manager. I've always aimed to be the head manager, so I'm incredibly excited to be moving closer to my goal. Oh, wait, what? Kelly, you're getting promoted. James's reaction mixed surprise with perhaps a hint of disbelief, underlining a day full of revelations and reaffirming my commitment to my career goals amidst the family drama. I don't understand. Did you actually say yes to the promotion? James asked, clearly puzzled. Yes, I accepted it. I've mentioned my career goals to you before, haven't I? I responded, surprised by his reaction. Wait a minute. You should have asked for my permission before making such a decision. What were you thinking? Plus, I've always said I wanted you to be a stay-at-home wife. How is it that you're moving up while I'm stuck in the same spot? Doesn't that strike you as odd? James questioned, frustration evident in his tone. That's not my responsibility. I've made it clear I don't want to quit working. Why you haven't been promoted is something I can't answer, I replied, standing my ground. Soon after our exchange, James made a call, presumably to his sister, because she showed up a few minutes later. Hey, I've heard you snatched the promotion that should have been James's. What gives? She accused me right away. I didn't snatch anything. In our company, promotions are awarded based on one's performance, I explained calmly. So what, you're suggesting James isn't good at his job? How could you look down on your own husband? Sandra snapped back, twisting my words. This is absurd, I muttered under my breath as they decided to celebrate at my expense, grabbing my bank card right from my purse. Despite my attempts to resist, they overpowered me, leaving the house with laughter as their parting shot. Tears filled my eyes as I realized the magnitude of my mistake in marrying James. Regrets flooded in, but it was clear what I needed to do next: find a reputable divorce lawyer. James didn't return home that night. The following day at work, he approached me with a smug expression. Yesterday was so fun. Nothing beats a feast paid for by someone else. Thanks for covering it. He handed me the receipt from a high-end barbecue place, showing a charge of $1,500, along with receipts from luxury bars amounting to a staggering $9,000. I was fuming inside but bit my tongue as more colleagues arrived. On my way home, I checked my bank account and was horrified to discover a total of $9,000 had been withdrawn. I confronted James as soon as I saw him. "James, what on earth were you thinking, spending $9,000? On fancy meals and bars, no less? That money was mine, saved from before we were together," I exclaimed, barely containing my anger over his reckless spending and disregard for our financial well-being. As soon as I walked through the door, James started complaining about me nagging him. When I brought up the issue of the money he had spent, money I had saved before we got married, he dismissively said, "I don't know and I don't care. It's already spent anyway," and locked himself in the bathroom. That was the last straw for me. I decided then and there that I was going to divorce him. Over the weekend, I visited a lawyer, and in the weeks following, the preparations for our divorce moved along smoothly. James's behavior hadn't improved. He continued to come home late and rushed out early on his days off. Just when I was considering hiring a detective to see what he was up to, I received a call from Ryan, my brother-in-law. "Hello, is this Kelly?" Ryan's voice came through the phone. "Yes, Ryan. It's unusual to hear from you. What's up?" I replied, surprised by his call. "Well, it's been a while. I'm actually calling to ask if Sandra is with you," he said. "No, Sandra isn't here. Why do you ask?" I was curious. "She's been coming home late and disappearing on weekends without telling me where she's going. She mentioned she was at James's place when I asked her yesterday," Ryan explained. "That's interesting. James has been acting similarly. They might be going somewhere together, but frankly, it's no longer my concern," I shared, distancing myself from the situation. "Oh, and Ryan, there's something I need to tell you too," I continued, sensing an opportunity to share my experiences. Ryan was taken aback by my indifference, but urged me to continue. I told him everything about the money Sandra had borrowed from me, James's extravagant spending, and my decision to divorce James. Hearing all this, Ryan sighed deeply. "Is that so? I'm sorry about my wife. I've been at my wit's end, thinking about divorce, but haven't been able to take that step," he confessed. "Ryan, why don't you use the evidence I've gathered? It sounds like we're both dealing with similar issues. Maybe it's time to teach these reckless siblings a lesson they won't forget," I suggested, feeling a bond of mutual understanding forming between us. "Yeah, let's work on this together," Ryan agreed, a note of determination in his voice. Then he mentioned something intriguing. Sandra had been pushing him to take a long vacation, and he had noticed travel brochures on their vanity. Curious, I decided to investigate a shelf in our house that James always kept off limits. To my astonishment, I found travel brochures and club cards hidden there. It all made sense now. They were planning a trip without us knowing. "Ryan, I think they're definitely planning a trip. I just found evidence of it," I informed him, both of us realizing the depth of our partner's deceit. This newfound information solidified our resolve to proceed with our plans for divorce and hold them accountable for their actions. I stumbled upon some travel brochures hidden away, sparking an idea. As I shared my plan with Ryan over the phone, he couldn't help but laugh and agreed to play along. We concluded our call with a promise to coordinate our actions through text messages. I also forwarded him some evidence that might be useful for his own divorce proceedings while we meticulously strategized our next moves. 3 weeks later, just as the sun was rising, James left our house, a plan I was privy to thanks to a heads-up from Ryan the previous day. A few hours into his adventure, James called me, boasting about how he was going to enjoy a trip using my credit card with Sandra and their friends. His late nights and secretive phone calls had already aroused my suspicion that they were plotting something. Fortunately, I was ready for their games. Feigning surprise, I asked him to clarify. With a smirk in his voice, James revealed that they had been planning this trip for a long time and viewed Ryan as a safety net in case their plan fell through. They thought I was becoming too confident and decided it was time to teach me a lesson, as he put it. James's words were meant to belittle me, suggesting I couldn't stand up to their manipulations. But I was beyond feeling hurt or angry. I felt nothing at all. I questioned James about his earlier comment regarding my debit card, playing along with his illusion of victory. Confused, James insisted he had taken my card, but I calmly informed him that my card was still with me in my wallet. There was a moment of silence before he stuttered, questioning what card he had bragged about using. I revealed, much to his shock, that he had mistakenly taken an old gym membership card of mine. It matched my debit card in color and size. Realization dawned on James as he confirmed it did say Fitness Club on the card, and he began to question his mistake, wondering if he had mixed up the cards. Amidst this confusion, Ryan, who had been listening in on speakerphone, couldn't contain his amusement. James's grand plan to splurge on my dime had crumbled over a simple mix-up with a gym card. This blunder not only foiled their extravagant scheme, but also marked the beginning of their comeuppance, with Ryan and I ready to move forward with our plans, strengthened by the absurdity of their mistake. James was adamant he had seen his debit card, but his plan had fallen apart. "Ah, so this was Sandra and your scheme," he lamented, realizing he had been outsmarted. "I'm so disappointed. Actually, last night, I swapped your debit card with the gym membership card. It seems you didn't bother to check this morning and just took off with it," I revealed, enjoying the turn of events. What are you playing at?" James was clearly frustrated. "No, I should be asking you that. Tough break, huh? Don't get too full of yourself just because you're my stepbrother. Got it?" I countered, not letting him intimidate me. James tried to brush it off. "You'll see. We have gifts for you both when we return." "You think you can bribe us? I won't accept anything but cash," he bluffed. "We'll see about that. Look forward to it." I dismissed his comment, focusing on the situation at hand. "What are you going to do now?" "Oh, Kelly, can you send us some money?" James finally asked, his tone changing. I ended the call there. His message following the call, trying to threaten me with involving Ryan, only received a nonchalant "Is that so?" from me before I went back to sleep. When I woke up in the afternoon, my phone was flooded with missed calls and messages. I first called Ryan, then decided to pick up James's call. "Hey, finally. Send the money, please. It's so cold, I think we're going to freeze," James pleaded. The reason for their discomfort was clear. They were in Alaska. In February, the cold there is biting, and if James and his group were complaining, it meant my plan had worked perfectly. "Really? You mentioned Ryan would help, right? Or is he not there?" I played along. "What? Do you know something?" James's confusion was evident. "Should I fill you in? Since you and Sandra decided to team up, Ryan and I did the same. It's quite simple," I explained, enjoying the irony of the situation. "Now, do you understand why I kept you on the phone for so long during that first call? It was to buy time, and Ryan, he's on his way back here on another plane." The revelation seemed to hit James hard. Our coordinated response to their scheme had left them stranded and cold, far from the luxurious getaway they had anticipated. My satisfaction came not just from thwarting their plan, but also from the solidarity Ryan and I showed in facing their deceit. As soon as I received confirmation that Ryan had boarded his flight back, I ended the call with a clear message to James. "We've joined forces to teach you a lesson. Now, find your way back on your own. See you." And with that, I hung up, eager for Ryan's return. I took this time to call my lawyer, setting up what would be our final meeting about the divorce before James and his companions could make their way back. I anticipated a confrontation upon their return and wanted to be fully prepared. Just a few hours later, as predicted, James and his entourage arrived, bursting with indignation. "Kelly, what the hell? You better be ready to move out. Ryan sided with you, hasn't he? Why'd you return before us? This is unbelievable. You think I'm okay with this? Apologize now." "Shut it and sit down," Ryan intervened, his usually calm voice now booming, commanding James and his friend to sit immediately. They complied, shocked into silence by Ryan's authority. Our lawyer wasted no time, distributing his business cards to James and his friend, who looked utterly confused as they accepted them. Without further ado, Ryan and I presented them with a stack of papers. Their confusion turned to shock as they skimmed the documents, their complexions draining of color. Wait, this talks about dividing property. You're not suggesting a divorce, are you? James stammered, disbelief coloring his tone. It's on mine, too. A divorce? What did I even do? This has to be a joke, right? James's friend echoed his disbelief, looking from one to the other for confirmation. Yeah, right, Ryan responded, his tone final. I'm heading home. I've had enough. I've been recording your daily tantrums for a while now, including that call you made during your so-called vacation, James. You really don't see the problem with your behavior, do you? I can't keep living like this. Wait, are you serious? James's voice was tinged with a sudden realization of the gravity of the situation as the reality of impending divorces began to sink in. The tables had turned entirely, with Ryan and I standing united, ready to move forward from the chaos they had created. I mentioned it before, didn't I? I want half of the down payment we made on the house, plus the remainder of the mortgage, and I want back the savings you used from when I was single. I firmly stated my demands to James. Turning to Sandra, I continued, and you, Sandra, you're going to repay me for the money you borrowed and the additional amounts you withdrew from my savings along with James, right? Sandra tried to deflect. Wait, James was the one who bought the house, and I never borrowed or spent any of that money. You're making false accusations. Sandra, please review the documents. There's a promissory note outlining exactly how much you owe, I pointed out, undeterred. No way. I don't know anything about this. Without proof, I'll just dismiss this as useless, she retorted, attempting to downplay the seriousness of the evidence. Both James and Sandra acted rashly in response. James crushed the recorder under his foot, and Sandra ripped the paper to shreds, both wearing smug looks of defiance. Look here, James, destroying that recorder changes nothing. The data's still saved on my computer, and Sandra, that document you destroyed wasn't the original. You've accomplished nothing, I calmly explained, revealing their efforts to be futile. What the hell are you three even trying to do? James's frustration was evident. Oops, was my simple reply, highlighting their lack of foresight. To Sandra, I also have a claim against you for all the savings you squandered, not to mention the cozy time you spent with that guy at the bar, I added, revealing more of their misdeeds. Faced with the reality of their actions and the legal repercussions, both James and Sandra started to break down, tears streaming down their faces. The financial reckoning was harsh but fair. For James, the total came to $135,000, $8,000 for emotional damages, $100,000 for the house's down payment, and $15,000 for miscellaneous expenses. Additionally, there was an upcoming loan repayment of $4,000. Sandra's bill amounted to $35,000, which included $11,000 for miscellaneous expenses and $31,000 for the loan she had acknowledged with the promissory note. As for Ryan's claims against Sandra, given her intentional distress and frivolous spending, the total was $135,000. $55,000 for emotional damages, and $80,000 for miscellaneous expenses, all calculated without dividing any assets like condos. This stark financial and emotional toll underscored the consequences of their actions, serving as a potent reminder of accountability and the importance of integrity in relationships. After the fallout, I half expected James and Sandra to attempt suing us, given their track record. However, our sharp attorney had already anticipated such moves, including a clause in the settlement paperwork essentially saying, if you try to sue, you'll surely lose. No one will represent you, and it'll only cost you more. Focus on your repayments instead. With that, we managed to avoid court altogether. I collected my things and left our shared home behind. Word of the whole ordeal somehow reached my workplace, leading to James being transferred to another branch, which helped put some necessary distance between us. Not long after, James reached out with a message that took me by surprise. "Kelly, I miss you. Life's empty without you. Can we try again? You can focus on your career all you want." But I knew better than to fall back into that cycle. "It's not going to happen. Goodbye," was my firm reply. Then came Sandra, trying to play the family card. "Kelly, think it over about my brother. What if we all live together again? Maybe we just misunderstood each other. I think things could be better." My response to her was just as resolute. "Sandra, it's not going to happen. I'm sorry. Goodbye." Both of them pleaded, but I stood my ground, cutting off all contact. Ryan, it turned out, received similar pleas, but also chose to ignore them. One day, passing my old house in a taxi, I noticed a "for sale" sign out front. With the settlement paid in full and all communications cut, I had no clue how James and Sandra were faring, nor did I want to know. As for me, I've moved on and up literally. I bought a condo and settled into my new life. Work has been fantastic, and I was recently promoted to regional director, a role I've long aspired to. Ryan and I have also grown closer, finding comfort and compatibility in each other's company. We've gone out a few times, discovering a surprising ease in our interactions. Life has vastly improved post-divorce, confirming my decision was the right one. As for what's developed between Ryan and me, well, that's a tale for another day.